So this is the DJI Osmo Action 3, a camera that kind of went through a bit of an identity crisis with the Action 2 with that smaller, really modular design. Well, now DJI is bringing back that signature rugged action camera styling along with some big improvements on the functionality of these cameras. And when it comes to raw specs, the Action 3 inherited a lot from the Action 2, and for the most part, that's a really good thing. The Action 2 had some massive upgrades. We got a bigger sensor, 4K up to 120 frames per second, 1080p up to 240 frames per second, along with a much wider 155-degree field of view. So now you have all of that, plus a little bit more of the action baked in.
So because of all those changes, now the Action 3 feels like a camera that's pretty much ready for everything. You have this extremely rugged body. You have dual touch screens on the front and the back. So you can actually trigger all of your settings from the front screen. And man, this is really helpful because so often the back of the camera is not always accessible depending on how you have it mounted. It's also waterproof to 16 meters, which is over 52 feet without a diving case. So that's deeper than most other action cameras. But my favorite is actually going to be the quick release mount. And we kind of first saw this on the Action 2, but it is now improved with a positioning notch on it to strengthen it even more. And honestly, at first, I wasn't sure if I would love how this would work, but after a few weeks, I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite parts. So you can tell another big focus of the Action 3 was usability, and that really started with the menu and interface. It's so much easier to use, but it really goes beyond that into just making this an overall more usable camera, and a lot of that goes into recording times. And this is actually pretty big for me because I happen to live in Florida, and it's definitely one of the hotter states, and action cameras, actually pretty much all of my cameras, have a tendency to overheat really quickly, and typically battery life can suffer as well. So for the Action 3, DJI claims to have much longer recording time. So whether you're recording indoors, in the heat, or they're actually claiming some big improvements in the cold as well. So I tested this out myself to see if I could notice a difference. Honestly, I was a bit surprised with just how long the Action 3 recorded. So I had both the Action 3 and the new GoPro 11 with the Enduro battery in 4K 60, and I might live in Florida, but it's October right now, so it's like a mild 85, which is not hot for us, but for some reason, if you put anything in the sun out here, it just overheats like crazy. And I mean, the GoPro lasted just shy of 12 minutes. That was it before it completely overheated, and the battery had drained 25% in those 12 minutes. I tried several times to turn it back on and it never did, so it was down for the count until I sent it inside to go get it cooled off. Meanwhile, the Action 3 recorded 24 minutes, so double the amount before the screen turned off, but it was actually still recording, and it recorded for a full 1 hour and 18 minutes, which is crazy. What wasn't that awesome is that the Sony A1, which I was recording the overheating test on, ended up overheating after 35 minutes, which was especially bad because that was just recording a time lapse at just 8 frames per second, while the Action 3 was recording 60 frames per second. So I might have some issues with Sony after that, but definitely props to DJI. Plus, I was averaging about 20% better battery life on the DJI Action 3 than the GoPro 11. So I do want to get into the quick release that DJI uses for this camera, because between that and the front touchscreen, those became some massive hardware upgrades for me the more I actually use the camera in real life. So these screw attachments that most action cameras use, I just don't love them. It takes a long time to take the camera on and off. Plus, it actually is really close to the camera itself when you use them. So this can be a little tough to actually even screw on tight depending on how you have the camera mounted. Plus, if you take this off and take it back on again, you have to readjust everything on the camera. So it's just not ideal for being able to take an action camera and mounting it on a bunch of different stuff or changing it up. However, this new magnetic mechanism right here is so much faster. Literally, you just magnetically put the camera on and then you kind of have to push to make it click in, and you can quick release it really quickly as well. Plus, DJI actually includes a case with this that has vertical mounting built in. So literally you can go from horizontal to vertical in just a few seconds. So the reason I didn't think I would love these quick release mechanisms is it's technically another piece that you can lose, and you can't actually mount the camera to anything without these. So it took me all of about 2 days to misplace my first one myself. Thankfully I found it, but you can buy a lot more of these. They're $20 including the adhesive base, although honestly I think DJI should just sell like 3 or 5 packs of these mounts, because why I ended up loving it is just how fast and easy it is to switch between your different accessories. So now I just bought a bunch of them, and now I could swap mounts in seconds. So I could have this mounted on a car mount, quickly just remove it from here, mount it on another mount right here, and have it mounted on my chest, and all of these different situations that literally in seconds I could just swap these accessories, and it made it so much better. And then I never had to worry about actually losing these, because they were all just attached to my favorite accessories, and I was ready to go in seconds no matter how I wanted to mount it. So Stabilization has also seen some pretty massive improvements with Rocksteady 3.0, and yeah, this thing filters out bumps like crazy. Really impressive stabilization. Now, one thing that I saw a lot of press on is the horizon steady mode, which is really cool. Once you rotate the camera, you can actually rotate it all the way around, and it will still keep your horizon completely level. And this makes footage look like you had this mounted on a gimbal, which is really awesome. I absolutely love the look, but it does crop in a bit, and it will reduce the quality from 4K to 2.7K. Thankfully, there's a stabilization mode that I don't hear people talk about as much. It's called horizon balancing, and I honestly thought it was way better because it effectively does the exact same thing. It doesn't crop in as much. You still get that 4K resolution, and it will keep the horizon completely level as long as you don't rotate it more than about 45 degrees. And so far, I haven't found anything I'm personally doing where I would need horizon level while rotating the camera completely sideways like this. I mean, I'm throwing it on cars, maybe a bike, vlogging. All of these usually have some wobble, but never more than a few degrees. So I really like having that horizon balancing mode. Now, the quality was actually really impressive for an action camera. So obviously DJI knows a few things about camera tech from their drones, but the colors on this, they were really vibrant, lots of contrast in the image itself. Thankfully, auto exposure control wasn't jumpy at all, which is great because I actually use this quite a bit when shooting with action cameras because the scenes are always changing and I want it to kind of auto adjust with them a lot of the time. Now you can also shoot 4K up to 120 frames per second, so I'm not taking a resolution hit if I want to get something like slow motion. Now there is an option for Cine Like D, which is a flat color profile on the camera. Gives you a little bit more dynamic range, flexibility grading in post. However, one thing that I don't do is use this too often for these small sensor cameras like this because there just isn't that much flexibility with colors. But DJI does have 10-bit color profiles coming out soon, so this should make shooting in these flat profiles way more useful and better quality. Also, the camera on this, it's 155-degree field of view, which is much wider than most action cameras. So this will really help if you're in those situations where you just need a bit more in the frame, especially if you want like that point of view style framing. But I'm also really impressed with the audio coming out of this. It sounded great even with the built-in mics. But one thing that's pretty awesome is you can actually plug in a USB mic right into the side of the camera itself. So I actually used the DJI mic and I was able to get a complete wireless lab setup straight into the Action camera just by plugging that in with the USB cable it already includes. So the Action 3 comes in a 2 kits. So you get a standard combo, which comes with everything you need plus adhesive mounts, and it's only $329, which is a massive deal. Or you can get the Adventure adapter combo, which includes like an extension rod. Also, it comes with this 3 batteries. I have 1 in the camera, 2 in here, and this charging case. And this actually has a built-in power bank in it, so it actually juices up your batteries on the go, or you can actually USB plug this up to your phone and actually use it to charge your phone on the go if you wanted to. But honestly, the battery life is so good on this camera. DJI could probably have made it with just 2 batteries and I would have been fine for pretty much all day long. But this new case and setup is really awesome because I always know that I have a battery ready to go and always topped off. But definitely hit me up with any other questions you guys have on the Action 3. If you follow my IG stories at all, you've probably seen me use this quite a bit in the last couple of weeks with some pretty crazy cars. And I know I'm always telling you that I have some awesome stuff coming up, but seriously,